Welcome back. Ermanni Networks with Maz. Brian Ermanni not in. Anson Wells filling in his stead. It is that time of the week we talk to one of our favorite individuals, that being Dan Miller, about the state of the Detroit Lions. My man Dan Miller, how you doing?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, Dan.
Hey.
We're doing good. We're doing good. Everybody's jumping off a cliff. Everybody has things to say. The Lions should be doing this. Jared Goff isn't this. Blah, blah, blah. Dan Miller, please calm these people down.
It's the life, man. I mean, look, when you play once a week, it's an event. And there's a lot that goes into that. So when it doesn't go right, it gives you another week to pick it apart. And look, there were obviously some things in that game that were troubling. When you see that team going 1 for 7 in the red zone in a game that's right there to be taken, one-score game 4 times in Tampa Bay territory in the fourth quarter, that's troubling. But I think you can look at it and say it's clearly something that needs to get fixed, but you can also say, look, this team was number 3 in the red zone last year. We know what they're capable of doing. They're number 2 in the NFL in total offense right now. They've got 463 yards coming out of that game that they got. They had 26 first downs to 12 for Tampa Bay. They average 5 yards a carry. There's good things happening, but they do need to figure out that red zone and get that thing right. And if they do, look, they're not that far off. If we were asking them to do something, Braylon, that we've never seen them do, I'd probably feel different. I have full faith in Ben Johnson in this offense that they're going to figure this thing out.
Dan, I agree, and I'm glad you brought up Ben Johnson. I remember playing for the Jets. So, we had LaDainian Thomas, Santonio Holmes, Sean Green, myself, Dustin Keller. So there were a lot of weapons for Schottenheimer to figure it out, and I do think that is probably what's going on with Ben Johnson. Jared Goff, he spoke today, and he just talked about Dan Campbell being right that he maybe was trying to do too much, and maybe that's him trying to put too much on himself because he has a new contract or whatever, what else. But he doesn't have to do that much. I think that's what he was saying. I appreciate that he was saying maybe I can just calm down a little bit and take what's given.
Yeah, I think when your head coach tells you that, that's probably a good time to maybe throttle it back, take a look at what you're doing, and just say, all right, maybe he's right. And with this offense, when you have Gibbs, you have Montgomery, you have Amon-Ra, you have Jameson Williams, you have Laporta. Look, you got plenty of options out there. There's no way in the world, Khalif Raymond, there's no way in the world that they can cover all those guys. So take what the offense gives you, and that's when Jared's been at his best. We've seen Jared play at an extremely high level. And you know what? For a lot of those snaps, he did play at a high level. And then I'm sure there's some that he'd like to have back among those 55 pass attempts in that game.
Crazy.
But I just don't think, guys, it's that far off. And I understand. You can't just look at it and say, oh, there's nothing to worry about. You got to say, look, you've got to fix what's wrong, but then you get into how available those options to fix might be. And I think looking at this team with that O-line and the weapons we just talked about, it's available. And I'm sure that's what they're going over right now, is trying to figure that thing out. Look, this won't be an easy game this weekend. It's a team that's going to be coming in confident, coming off a huge victory for them. Lions are going to have to earn this thing, and offensively, they're going to have to take care of the football and take care of all the opportunities they get in Arizona.
Hey, Dan, Anson here again. I want to stick with Dan Campbell quotes. After halftime, before the second half started, he came out and said, quote unquote, I screwed our guys. This is something that as a team we're going to have to overcome in the second half. We didn't get a chance to talk about the botched field goal attempt at the end of the half. Can you just speak to that and what it means to a team to have a head coach come out and take responsibility for something like that?
Well, the screw-up itself was terrible. You can't do that. I mean, look, that's a clear situation you work on every day. You had plenty of time to go down there and clock it with probably 2-3 seconds to go. You did not have time to run your field goal unit out there and for them to get a kickoff. So they needed to just, whatever the mechanics of it were, if it was Campbell that said go, whatever it was, he took full blame for it, so we'll just leave it with him. If he's the one that said go, he's owning it. That's a massive mistake. It cost them a chip shot and 3 points. So you can't have that. And can you say that changed the game because later on all you need is a field goal? Yeah, you don't know how the game would have gone from that point on, but certainly we can sit there and look at it late and say, man, those 3 points would have looked awful big right now, and I think that's where the Lions were. So, look, if there's one thing I think we could say about a Dan Campbell team, we don't get a lot of those gaffes that like we've seen in years gone by with some Lions teams. That was out of character for them, and I just think that's probably a one-off. It was a bad mistake, confluence of circumstances. You don't do it again. I think I've talked to guys after that. I think they looked at it a couple ways. One, I think they appreciated a coach that said, that's on me, I screwed up. It didn't come into that locker room and say, you did this, you did this, you did this, you guys didn't play well enough, you didn't take advantage of the opportunities. I think Dan Campbell knows a couple things. One, he felt terrible about that. And I will tell you, talking to him on Monday when he started talking about it again, you could just see his face change. He felt awful about that mistake and put it on himself. But I think he knew he could take some heat off his team by doing that. But also that they're still going to be just as hard on themselves as they would have been, understanding that there were a ton of chances to win that game after that mistake. And his guys are going to understand that and go to work on that. So I think that plays well with the players, but I think because of who these players are, they're not going to just sit back and say, well, yeah, that was on him, I did fine, because they didn't, and they know that.
Dan, when you guys were doing the game, you and Lomas, these are the things that stick out to me. I've watched a million games in my life. How is it third and goal? I'm sorry, bro.
And Dan, he watches a lot of games over
since 1970,
and over
all right?
and
Since
over
1970.
A year.
Come on.
To a million.
It's a lot. Do the math from 1970 to
A lot
now.
of rewatches.
It's a lot.
I'm doing it. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Nonetheless, I'm watching, and I had a great seat for the game. I was right there in the front row,
bragging.
thanks to Chad, and right in the end
get it,
zone.
man.
It's third and goal from the 3. And then they throw an out pass to J-Mo. Why not run the ball twice? Why not run the ball twice? And then, to make matters worse, he kicks a 25-yard field goal. To me, that's not Dan Campbell. I don't know what happened to him in this game. And then they fake the punt in their own 20, get a first down, get a fourth down, and then they don't try a field goal. I know it was a long one, but that's why you got Jake
59-yarder?
Bates. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Look,
that screwed me, man.
I don't know if I can keep track of all of the ones that you just threw at me, but I would say this.
I can keep going.
The 59-yarder.
Calm down, man.
I think it's if you miss it, you're giving them the ball at midfield. I think he felt good about the way that his defense was playing, and he felt good about his chances to get the ball back, and it worked perfectly. They got the ball right back with plenty of time left to go down and have a chance to win the game, and it didn't happen. So I would say that. I didn't love the out pattern. I did not love that at all. And to your point about a running game, I think one of the things that Dan Campbell said this week that went wrong in the red zone was their running game was not productive. Whether that means they didn't call on it enough or they weren't getting the production once they ran it, I think that was one of the things that was missing in this game. And look, I think if you even go back to the week before, they had some really solid runs within the red zone. And even in this game, Gibbs just outside the red zone and into the red zone almost broke that one down the left sideline.
Yeah.
But I thought that was one place that they could have been more effective with the run was in the red zone. They weren't in this game, and I think that is part of what hurt them. But look, that's not an easy pass to complete. There were 2 defenders in the area when they threw it. So I'm with you on that. But I think if we went back over those plays, on those 7 possessions inside the 20-yard line, there's probably a lot that you could look at and say, man, that isn't how they normally operate down there.
Hey, Dan, and you brought up the defense, and I definitely wanted to touch on that for a second. They hold them to 20 points. Second straight week they hold a team to 20 points. Of course, Hutch had an almost record day, 4.5 sacks. What are you seeing from the defense so far that you take away?
D-line play.
Well, I think they've given up a couple big plays in the 2 weeks, and I think that's what they want to stop. I think if you look at the defense, save for that 41-yard pass to Godwin where there was a coverage breakdown, they did a pretty good job in this game. Mm-hmm. And I just think if you go back to the Rams game, even there were a couple of big plays in that, a missed tackle that led to a 60-plus yard reception that I think set the Rams up. So to Tyler Johnson. So I think that there's some good things happening on defense. I really love the way Levi's playing, man. He's bringing everything that he had in camp into the regular season. He's a factor out there. Reeder only had 25 snaps. His role is going to continue to grow. The secondary, Terrion's figuring things out. I think we've seen the flags, 4 significant penalties against him so far in 2 weeks. He's figuring things out like rookies have to do, but they're 4th against the run right now through 2 weeks. Not a big sample size, but does kind of go back to what they did last year when they were 2nd in the league against the run. So I like a lot of the things I'm seeing on defense, and I do feel like that pass rush is going to continue to rev up. And with Levi in there, with Reeder coming in, with Hutch being Hutch, and Alim being able to do what he can do, and then you pepper up the guys in when Davenport gets back.
Yeah.
I think there's some good things happening on that side of the ball. We still need to see it. It's only 2 weeks. Here's the one thing I didn't like in that game. You take the lead, and they come right back and score on the next possession.
Yeah.
It's almost like in baseball. Maz, I've watched a million baseball games. When you take the lead, what do you want from your pitcher the next time you go out? You want to shut down inning.
Yep.
And, man, if the Lions could have found some way to stop the Bucs on that ensuing possession, get some momentum, get the ball back, go down and score, it's a different game. But that's credit to Tampa Bay. They went down and scored, and Mayfield did a lot of that on his own. The last 22 were from his legs. So that was kind of the one possession in that game where I was like, man, if you could find a way to stop them there, maybe it's a different game.
Dan Miller, the king of the comeback joke, and nothing like a good comeback joke. You talked about the legs of Baker Mayfield. Look, the quarterback that they're going against this week coming up, his legs are a little better. His legs are a little younger. That's Kyler Murray. With Alex Anzalone out, Jack Campbell's now coming into that role. Are you comfortable with Jack Campbell going against Jack Campbell in this role for the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with Jack's athleticism. He can fly around the field. I mean, he's a big dude that can move everywhere. And look, I'd love to have Alex in there, and we'll see what happens over the rest of the week in terms of protocol and him getting out of it and being ready to go. But the problem is, Braylon, as you were alluding to, it's Kyler Murray, who's playing with a ton of confidence right now.
And a huge
He's got
chip.
4 touchdowns. Go ahead.
I said, and a huge chip on his shoulder, sorry.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's taking off when he needs to take off, and when he takes off, he's a problem. And Levi talked about it earlier this week. He said, you can't play conservative on the line. You can't play scared, but you have to, understand what your rush lanes are and their integrity and keep it, because you've got to find some way to box him in. He's going to get out.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure you minimize the damage. But he's a gifted player who's obviously been up and down in his career. But maybe he's figuring something out there. And Dan Campbell pointed something out earlier this week. They've got him under center, which we hadn't seen before. So they're doing some different things with him. But he's a problem this week. James Conner is a problem this week. Harrison's a problem this week. They got some things they have to deal with on this team. But chief among them is making sure that he's just not continuously breaking your heart on third down by getting out of there and making plays.
Somebody told me on any given Sunday, man, the NFL is tough, and this is no different this week coming up against the Cardinals. Quick last thing for me, Anson has something else. With the Detroit Lions, with Marvin Harrison. Go ahead, Anson. I'm sorry. I lost my thought.
That's fine. So, Dan, this whole last 2 years, Detroit fans have been chomping at the bit for Jamison Williams. Yep. We want to see what this guy can do. This whole offseason, we have seen a push and a commitment that this guy was going to be a major part of the offense, that he was going to take that next step. Now, we've seen that. He's number 2 in the league right now in total yards for receivers. What I have seen, though, on the other side of that is the disappearance of Laporta. So how much is the push to elevate J-Mo's game taking away from the development of Laporta, and is it something that you think we're going to see in week 3 that the Lions get back to on the offensive side of the ball?
I think the thing you have to do is take what's available to you. Again, they're number 2 in the league in total offense, so there's obviously something good happening here. Laporta's a great player. He's one of the best tight ends in this league, and you would love to see him get more involved, and he will get more involved. I don't think that's directly related to J-Mo. I just think whether he and Goff aren't on the same page, or they're taking him away, or Goff's just looking somewhere else. It's like week 1. Was there a problem with Amon-Ra? And we asked the coaches, and we asked Jared Goff, did they do something to take Amon-Ra away? And they said, no, we just went somewhere else. So, want to see more from Laporta, want to see him more involved. But I will say this, when you have Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, just the names I named before, J-Mo, all the guys that they have in this team, there's going to be some guys that don't get theirs each week. Now, we're going to see more production from Laporta than we've seen over the last 2 weeks. I'm just not overly concerned about it. I've just seen too much from him. Now he wasn't out there apparently early in practice today, so we'll see what happens. But I think it's easy sometimes to miss the big picture and get caught up in the minutia and start thinking there's something wrong when sometimes it's just a given week, it's a blip, and the guy comes back next week and catches 8 for 80 and has a touchdown. So I think that's what you'll see from Laporta when he's healthy and out there and ready to go. I just, this was just one of those weeks where the sum with 463 was, the parts didn't add up to it with what they did in the red zone. So I guess that's a really, really long way of saying I'm not overly concerned. I love what I'm seeing from J-Mo. I'm seeing a full route tree. I'm seeing him catch the ball all over the field. And as I've said to you guys before, if he ends up with 60 to 80 catches, his numbers, I think, are going to be pretty impressive because he can take anything, anywhere, and make it into a big play.
Dan, how fun is it doing the 11 o'clock sports now with the Tigers? I mean, I know you've watched a million baseball games. So have I. And this time,
as of tonight.
As of tonight, man. Let me. I feel I'm on the edge of my seat. I've got a stress ball in my hand. I feel like I'm in a playoff run here, and it's fantastic.
Well, you got Scooble tonight, so
Yep.
obviously you feel great anytime that's the case. And look, I mean, I think it's been great not just to see them winning, but to see the guys that are driving the winning. It's these young players that we believe are the future of this organization. And coming into this season, look, we wanted them to do well, but more than anything, I think we needed to answer some questions about whether or not, in particular, the 8 guys that you trot out there every day, 9 including a DH, are going to be the guys that you can lean on. Are they legit? And I think right now, you feel good about Cole Keith. You feel good about Parker Meadows. You feel good about some of these guys that have stepped up and all of a sudden, Riley Green taking it to another level. Sweeney has done a decent job since he's been up here. Veerling shows that he's a major league player and can be versatile for you and play all over the place. So I just think it's not just that they're winning, which is exciting and it's great, and we're having fun in September and they're playing meaningful games. It's that what's happening now tells us that what the future of this team looks like is pretty promising. And they still have to make some moves this offseason. We can't just sit pat. In particular, they're going to need to find some pitching, I think. But I just love what we're seeing from these young players. I love the way Meadows has come back and what he must have done down in Toledo, whatever it was. Torque still a little shaky in there, but guys, this has been fun, but I think it's been meaningful because of what it means to the future.
He is the best voice in NFL radio, Detroit Lions voice, Dan Miller. Always appreciate you, and go Tigers.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Always fun having Dan Miller on the show. And he makes a lot of points. It's along the same lines of what you talked about when we started the show. I think it's the same thing that Ryan Ermanni said on Monday. Just calm down. Relax. You got a lot of weapons. The Lions are going to be who they were last year. They're going to be even better. Sometimes it just takes a second to get cooking. It takes a second to get on the same page. And you got Jamison Williams. You got to get him into the rotation. You have Tim Patrick now. You got to get him into that third position, that third spot. So it'll take some time. I think that's what the players are realizing too. Jared Goff said, hey, I need to calm down a little bit. I need to not press as much. So, they will calm down and they will not press.